So, I recently learned something called a Sheela-na-gig. They're medieval stone carvings found throughout Ireland and Britain, often depicting older women openly displaying her. And no one really knows exactly what they were meant to represent. Some believe that they were fertility symbols, some believe that they were protective figures, and others believe that they were warnings of lust. But what fascinated me wasn't the answer, it was the questions that they opened up. Because many of these carvings depict older women, not young women, not idealized women, not women sculpted that would fit today's beauty standards. They were older women, wild women, fierce women, women who seem completely unconcerned with being desirable. And I found this interesting because somewhere along the way, we've inherited this idea that a woman's value declines with age, that youth is where her beauty is, her sexuality is, her relevance is. But is that actually true? Because if I'm being honest, at 41, I know myself far more deeply than I did at 21. I trust myself more. I have stronger boundaries. And I understand my patterns better. And I know what is mine and what isn't. And I feel more like myself now than I ever did in my 20s. And I know I'm not the only woman who feels this way. Come on, ladies, be with me. Comment below. Let me read. You're here with me too, right? So, in fact, many women will tell you that as they've gotten older, they become more comfortable in their sexuality. Not because that they're trying harder to be desired, but actually because they're finally becoming more themselves, more comfortable in their skin, more connected to what they want, and actually more willing to take up space. And maybe that's another reason these carvings fascinate me, because when I look at the Sheela-na-gig, I don't see a woman performing sexuality for someone else's approval. I see a woman who appears completely unashamed of her body, completely unashamed of being female. And I find that interesting because so many women have been taught to experience their bodies through someone else's eyes, to ask, am I attractive enough, pretty enough, young enough, desirable enough? But perhaps there comes a point in a woman's life where her relationship with her sexuality shifts, where it becomes less about being desired and more about being connected. Less about performance and more about embodiment. Less about attracting attention and more about inhabiting herself more fully. Not because she has become perfect, but because she spent enough years trying to be someone else and eventually begins coming home to herself. Which makes me wonder, when exactly did we learn that a woman's value peaks in her youth? Because if we look throughout history, different cultures, spiritual traditions, ancient symbolism, older women were often respected as keepers of wisdom, not discarded, not invisible, respected. And yet, many women today are taught to fear aging as though it is a loss rather than a gain, as though every wrinkle means they're becoming less valuable, less beautiful, less relevant. But what if that's just another story that we've inherited? Because beauty standards themselves are constantly changing. At one point, a high forehead was seen as regal and beautiful. And in another, it was like pale skin, and then it turned to tan skin, and then it was thin bodies, and then curves, and then muscles. So entire generations of women have spent years trying to fix things about themselves that actually another culture would have celebrated. So imagine carrying insecurity over something that was actually never actually wrong. And then another thought crossed my mind. If we look at nature, it's often the male who adorns himself to attract the female. So the peacock, he spreads his feathers, and the lion grows his mane, and the bird of paradise performs elaborate displays, and the female carries and births life. So she literally brings new life into the world. So I find it interesting that somewhere along the way, many women were conditioned to feel like their role is to be chosen, to be attractive enough, pretty enough, young enough, thin enough, good enough, chosen enough. But what if we've been asking the wrong question? What if the question isn't, will they choose me? What if the question is, do I choose this? Do I choose this relationship? Do I choose this lifestyle? Do I choose this belief? Do I choose this version of myself? Because there is a huge difference living your life trying to be chosen and then living your life from choice. And perhaps that's part of what fascinates me so much about the Sheela-na-gig. She doesn't seem concerned with being chosen. She doesn't seem concerned with fitting a beauty standard. She doesn't seem concerned with performing femininity for approval. She simply exists. And perhaps that's why these carvings still provoke such strong reactions. Not because they reveal something shameful, but because they challenge some of our deepest conditioning. The conditioning that tells women that their worth is tied to appearance, and the conditioning that tells women that their value declines with age. The conditioning that tells women that their bodies are projects that constantly need fixing. And this is where it really hit home for me, because I spent years in bodybuilding and modeling, and I became very good at controlling my body. I knew how to push harder, diet harder, train harder, become leaner, become stronger. And there is absolutely value in discipline. There is value in movement. There is value in strength training. And there is value in nourishing the body well. But what I've come to realize is that health isn't just about what we do to the body. It's also about the relationship that we have with it. Because there is a difference between exercising because you love your body and exercising because you're at war with it. There's a difference between nourishing your body and trying to punish it into becoming acceptable. There's a difference between discipline and self-rejection. The truth is, we need both. We need structure, we need consistency, we need action, but we also need intuition. We need awareness. We need to learn how to listen, because sometimes the body needs challenge, and sometimes the body needs rest, and sometimes it needs discipline, and sometimes it needs compassion. So the goal isn't to choose one over the other. The goal is actually to build a relationship between the two, to stop treating the body like a project that just constantly needs fixing and start treating it like a relationship that deserves our attention. Maybe that's why the Sheela-na-gig has stayed with me, because beneath all the questions about beauty, aging, sexuality, femininity, and worth, I think she points towards something deeper. A woman who is fully herself, a woman who isn't performing, a woman who isn't trying to earn her value, and a woman who knows who she is. And maybe that's an invitation to question the stories that we've inherited, the stories, about beauty, about aging, about sexuality, about worth, and to ask ourselves, if none of those stories existed, how would I relate to my body? And who would I become?